What it do, baby? Get my little capture screen going here. Y'all hit me with a bruh if y'all can hear me. Sprinkle some of mama's cooking on this channel. I don't know if y'all been keeping up with Kwame Brown. And to me, he's the newest. This man is breaking the internet right now. I love his commentary. Shout out to S Move in the building. Appreciate you for tuning in. Today we are configuring TACACS Plus and RADIUS. We're gonna use Packet Tracer for this lab. Y'all know what it is. 101 Labs, Cisco CCNA version 4. It's authored by Paul Browning. Should be a link in the description box below if you want to get the book. We are on page 457, lab 107. Page 457, lab 107. Go ahead and drag and drop a switch, a PC, and a server. It's going to be the same topology for the PC. Switch. Let's try to get through this. Let's try to get through this, man. Where's the switch at? This guy right here. And a server that we're going to use for RADIUS. Where we at here? Server, right there. Got Professor Black Ops in the building. Appreciate you for tuning in, man. He said Kwame the truth. Isn't he, man? This dude been silent for like 20 years. And all of a sudden, he's like, nobody realized how, like, articulate and how, like, this dude, man, like, I never seen it coming. I did not see this coming, man. He goes back, he's referencing old, like, interviews where Jalen Rose was defending. And I do remember seeing that video. I just finished watching that one not too long ago where Jalen Rose was trying to defend him. Oh, my goodness, man. This dude, Kwame Brown, is the truth, man. If y'all haven't, go ahead and subscribe to that man's channel, man. Seriously. And it's bigger than basketball. You know, people like label him as a bus or whatever. But he's just so insightful with the talking points that he's making. And I'm not even going to get into it because I ain't going to say I'm stealing his content. But just go on his channel and just watch at least one live, man. Yeah, like he curses like a sailor or whatever. But who the fuck cares? Because so do I. But, yeah, Kwame Brown, man. I got a friend of mine that just was like, he totally missed the point. He's like, oh, man, he talking about Matt Barnes, his wife, and all this, and nobody talked about his wife. He just kept it strictly about basketball. It's bigger than basketball, dude. You're missing his point. And he's proven, like, the fact that my friend was so focused on that was, like, proves his point. It's like, y'all, like, just watch his channel, man. He live streams every day. Yeah, love that dude, man. Anywho, we're going to learn how to configure TACACS Plus. Y'all remember what I said about TACACS, right? It is a protocol that we use to authenticate to our networking devices, but we're using a third-party device to do the authentication. So let's say I'm trying to authenticate to a wireless controller, right? The wireless controller could have the usernames and passwords stored onto it, right? So all I got to do is put in my username and password, boom, log on to it, and it'll let me in, right? But typically, we would have a third-party device, like either a RADIUS or TACACS service, that will have those usernames and passwords. So when I'm logging into the wireless controller with my username and password, the wireless controller is going to check in with the TACACS Plus or RADIUS server and be like, hey, this dude named NetworkBruh with the username, with the password 123456789 because he couldn't think of a better password, wants to log on to this wireless controller. Is it okay? And then the TACACS Plus server is going to be like, let me see. Oh, yeah, I see that username in my database. Go ahead and grant him access. And then the wireless controller is going to let you in. Same thing with a switch, a router, or whatever. But the third-party device, which is going to be, in this case, the TACACS Plus server will do the authentication. Remember, the username and password is typically stored locally on this device, right? But when we are checking into it, the switch is going to be like, hey, this NetworkBruh with the username and password 123456789, can he get in? And then the server is going to be like, yes, he can get in because he put the right password in, even though it's fairly weak. and then grant us access. So remember, it's just a third-party device, and RADIUS and TACACS Plus, yeah, I said that right. RADIUS and TACACS Plus are pretty much the protocols, pretty much the languages that we use to, encrypt the traffic, and they use different port numbers, etc., etc. If you want further reading into that, open up the First Assert guide. Y'all know we just do the hands-on for these live labs, and that's what I do. I used to do tutorials and stuff, but I just been having fun live streaming. just like my man Kwame over there. So we got Lee McMillan in the building. Appreciate you for tuning in. He said he's been holding this for 20 years. Lawrence Little, man, shout out to you for saying that too. You're right. He's been holding this in, and I'm surprised. Like me, I don't know. Like I'm not a person that has a big mouth like that either. But it's just like, how do you hold something in for so long? And you just watch people. He just sit there and watch people just talk about it and talk about him, and he just kept it in, and he just stayed quiet for all these years. And now he's just like, y'all done woke up a sleeping giant, and that's what they literally did, man. It's just the greatest comeback story ever, man. Oh my goodness, man. Love Kwame Brown. I didn't really think of he was a bust. He was a bust. I'm just like, it's just like what everybody says. He's been in the league for like 12 years. He's not really a bust like that, but it is what it is. Shout out to Potts Air in the building. Appreciate you for tuning in. He said, where? Anyway, so yeah. I hope you guys got the PC, the Switch, and the server plugged in. This is more of a walkthrough. This ain't really like, hey, do this. If you remember how to do it, go ahead and do it. He kind of walks us through it, and I'm kind of glad about that because y'all know AAA and security is kind of a weak point of mine, so this makes it a little bit easier to kind of go through and stuff. As it says here, as I'm sure if you read in your study guide, AAA can use TACACS Plus or RADIUS to control user access to your network equipment, which is just what I just explained, right? In this lab, we will configure a TACACS Plus server to authenticate a user to connect to a multi-layer switch. So just like what I said about the wireless controller, except we're using this TACACS Plus server to authenticate the users that's going to log on to this switch here. And I'll show you how to do that. Just in case somebody logs on late or catches this stream a little bit later, I'll go ahead and do some labeling just so they know what to do here. This guy, the PC is going to be 10.111. Right, 10.1.1.1 is his IP address, and then the switch is going to be 10.1.1.20, and then the TACACS Plus server is going to be 10.1.1.10, just like that, right? And we'll call him TACACS Plus server. TACACS Plus. Yeah, man. Shout out to Kwame, man, for that, man. He I don't know if y'all seen, if you guys watched The Breakfast Club, but Charlamagne ended up apologizing to him. He realized he fucked with the wrong one, and he ran ahead and apologized. I'm just waiting for Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson to go ahead and apologize. Once he do that, then yeah, he really got the word on his side. He kind of got the word on his side right now. But Weber Tutorials, appreciate you for tuning in. C God maybe he might be, I don't know, man. He doubled down, he backed up, labeled himself, gave himself Donkey of the Day, which I don't know if you guys watch that show, his segment of letting the people making blunders or whatever, but he labeled himself Donkey of the Day, and he apologized for talking trash to not really trash, but just airing out Kwame Brown's business. K Brown on the loop. Indie, man. Listen, man, I gotta get my daily dose of Mama's Cooking. When every day I watch that show, man. Well, not that show, but just his live streams, man. And I'll be missing a couple of live streams, but I'm like, I gotta get caught up, man, because this dude, like, he could just talk for like an hour straight and just incredible talking points, and just makes you look at just professional sports and just the world differently, man. It's just refreshing to see, man. And he's just unapologetically himself. That's what's just great about it. So task number 1, connect the PC to the switch, which we did. Same thing to the server, which we did. Task 2 is configure the IP addresses. So that IP address right there that we said we was going to do, 10.111. Go to the configure tab. And I hope you guys are using Packet Tracer, because unless you have a physical TACACS server and switch and PC, which technically I kind of do. If I set up this PC as a TACACS server, but I'm not going to go and do it. This lab in the book, he actually used Packet Tracer, so we're going to go ahead and use Packet Tracer. The PC gets the static IP address of 10.111, right? Subnet mask of /20/8 rather, right? So is that correct? Yes. He even gave a default gateway, so let's go ahead and do that too. Let's go ahead and do that. Where's the default gateway? Default gateway. Where do you put that at? Where they do that at? Right there. IP configuration. Default gateway is 10.1.1.20, which is the switch. So that's gonna be the default gateway, right? Whenever he needs to go out the internet, he goes to his default gateway. But there's not really internet in this topology here. This is just that's just simple topology here. Task 3, configure an IP address for VLAN 1, which all ports are in by default on the switch. So we go to switch. Notice all these lights are red, right? That's because we don't have any kind of link lag activity because the switch is off. So we got to slide in that power supply, pause, onto the switch, and that'll power on the switch. Web tutorials, shout out to you for tuning in. You tuned in from Brazil. That's what's up, man. I was trying to create set up either summer vacation somewhere in South America, but it's like every country, the national security advisory is set to, the threat level is at red, you know. In Costa Rica, Dominican, like a whole bunch of countries are red, man. Colombia is like, they got protests going on over there. They like what? They like 1 week into protesting over there. It's crazy right now, man. The world is crazy right now. So we got the switch powered on. We say no because we are network engineers and we do our configuration custom, right? I'll go ahead and name him switch 1. Y'all know how to do that, right? Host name is SW1. That's not what the book called for, though. Configure an IP address, which we're going to do. Interface VLAN 1, right? That is the SVI, right? Switched virtual interface. We give them the IP address that is labeled right here on the switch. Y'all see that? Y'all with me so far? 10.1.1.20 with the subnet mask of /8. Oops. I'm so used to doing /24. All zeros. .0.0. And again, this is just more of a walkthrough. I forgot to put the word address there. You know, because he kind of just walked us through it. We got to no shut it though, right? MP no shut. That brings up the SVI. Show our work with show IP interface brief. There's no space in between the B and the R. And we'll see it is up right there. Y'all see that? Y'all with me so far? There it is right there. It's up. And notice the lights are green now, right? What else we need to do? Says here, set the telnet lines to use AAA and a method list named myauth, which we shall create shortly. So, let me read this just in case there's some newbies in here, right? We know what a telnet is, right? Telnet is a protocol we use to remote into our devices, but it's clear text though, right? Meaning that they can see the usernames and passwords and stuff. To use AAA, which is authentication, authorization, and accounting, right? And a method list named myauth. So we're just going to create a list of basically how this user is going to authenticate to the switch. You know, what method is he going to use to log onto the switch? We know it's going to be Tacx, obviously, but we have to say what's the name of the Tacx server and what lists are in that, or what other Tacx servers are in that list, and we're going to go ahead and create that right now, right? So go to global config mode, and we say, he said, I'm going to need to put some mama cooking on this security. Seriously, man. Sprinkle some of mama's cooking on some of this, man. Man, that's gonna be the phrase of 2021, man. Sprinkle some of mama's cooking. Go ahead. He got a Teespring. I think he been had merch. It's just he never really, try to capitalize on it. He just kind of like he put it out there. If people watch him, he had his channel since like 2013. So it's not like he's clout chasing at all, like some people would say. He been, recording live streams. It's just that he finally decided to defend himself, and he's going ham. So he's taking off right now, and shout out to Kwame Brown for that, man. So we go to the VTY lines, right? Line VTY 0 through 15, right? And then they said to create the method list called myauth. The way we do that is log in. Right, and the AAA. This is what I hate about AAA is these commands are not really. They're not really sensical, man. You read some of these commands, and after you're done with it, it looks pretty quick, cryptic, right? So right here it says login, right? Let's see what that is. It just says login. They don't give you a definition on this. Yeah, they don't really give you a definition. But every question mark, we'll see. We have an authentication or local. We're not going to do local password checking, right? Why? Because we're using the third-party device that's going to store the username and password. So if we had just the login, if we're going to use the local checking, then obviously we'll do local right here. But we're not going to check for the username and password on here, even though we're going to create one on here. We're going to use the third-party device, create the username and password on there, and that's going to do the authentication for us, right? So that's what that is. So we do login, local, what we said. I'm sorry, I said local. Authentication in this case, right? Authentication, because we're doing the method list, And then my auth was the name of it, right? My AUTH. And press enter. And now we got this warning right here. AAA warning: authentication list my auth is not defined for login, which is what we got to do right now. So it's telling you you're checking for usernames and passwords using AAA, but I don't have any kind of AAA server to check. Well, we're gonna do that right now, which is gonna be this guy. He's gonna be a AAA server, but specifically TACACS, right? Because there's two type of protocols: RADIUS and TACACS. They use different port numbers. One encrypts the whole packet, one encrypts only some of the traffic, or some of the packet rather, and one is open standard. I think they're both open standard now that I think about it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're both open standard. It used to be that TACACS was the only one that was Cisco proprietary, but then it became open standard, meaning you can use it on any type of vendor. But TACACS is more secure than RADIUS, but he makes us go over RADIUS in this anyway. So task 4, we only got, how many tasks we got for this? Shit. We got 10 tasks for this, so we're on task 4 right now. Configure AAA on the switch, add a username and password, and enable password. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go back out of this. He makes us do a AAA new model. This enables AAA. AAA new model. That's one of the things that I've got stuck in my head, or at least remember how to enable AAA. AAA new model. Now, does that make even any sense to me? You would think it would have said something like AAA enable or enable AAA. No, that's how they enable it. And this is why I hate the AAA and security commands. It don't really make sense to me. AAA new model. Does anybody what does new model mean? Does anybody know? I don't know. If we want to enable AAA, I would have thought it would have been enable AAA or AAA enable. This is what I mean by Cisco iOS and why I ain't gonna say I hate it, but why I hate the AAA commands. So that enables it, right? And then we're going to create the username and password. Yes, we're going to create it locally, but remember we're using the third-party device, which in this case is this. That's going to do your authentication. But we also have to create it on here. So the username, he said, is going to be Cisco, and also the password Cisco. So almost for security, right? A password or username Cisco, password Cisco also. So we created the username password. Then he said to create the username, an enable password, which the enable password he said was my Cisco. So enable, right? And the password is going to be my Cisco. Enter. Oh, you got to put the password or keyword, I believe. Password. What else? And then next, create a TACACS Plus group. Now this is the long one, and this is what I mean by these cryptic ass commands for AAA. Next, create a TACACS group. If the TACACS Plus server becomes unreachable, the switch can use its local database for authentication. Right? So basically what they're saying is, we're going to use this AAA server to do authentication, right? So when we want to log onto the switch, we're going to check in with the switch, be like, hey, my username and password is Cisco, and my password is also Cisco. He's going to be like, you dumbass, that's not a good password, but whatever. He's going to check in with the server, be like, hey, we got this username Cisco, and his password is also Cisco. He wants to log in. Is that good? TACACS server's going to check. He's like, yes, that's good. Go ahead and let him in. And the switch is going to be like, okay, yeah, you can go ahead and come on in. And then he's going to log on to the switch, right? Now, let's say this TACACS server, I'm not going to delete it right now, but let's say it dies, right? It gets out of the picture. Boom, right? For some reason, we can't reach it. We are going to create what's called a fallback. So in case that TACACS Plus server is unreachable, we're going to log onto the switch, be like, hey, my username and password is Cisco, and my password, or username is Cisco, and my password is also Cisco. Can I get granted access? He's going to reach out to the switch, be like, oh shit, the switch is not available. So he's going to check the local database that's on here, or fallback, and be like, okay, I can't reach this. I can't reach the server. Let me see if that password and username is on here, which we did. We created it, remember, right here. And he's going to realize, okay, you can go ahead and get granted access, and then we're going to let him in. That's what the local keyword that we're going to put at the end of this command. That's what's going to enable it. That's what's going to enable the fallback. So let's go ahead and bring this bad boy back in the picture. Sprinkle some of Mama's cooking on the switch and get that going, right? But let's see if it even makes sense when we read it out, right? So he says, create a TACACS Plus group. Okay, so we got to do this. AAA. And then it says authentication. This is how we set up the authentication. AAA and then authentication, right? We question mark. What else we got here? We got enable. We're not going to use a list for enable passwords. We're going to use it for login. we're not going to do it for PPP, right? Point-to-point protocol. We're not worried about that right now, right? So we said login. So next keyword is login, right? What else we got? It says here, we got a named list or default list. What are we going to do? I think we need to do just create the list because they said to, yes, create the list is my auth, right? Remember, this is just pretty much a walkthrough. So the name of it was my auth, which is what we created earlier in here, right there, right? And that's why they gave us this warning. Warning, authentication list, my auth is not defined for login. Well, guess what? We're going to do it right now. Hold on, switch, right? So we named it my auth. Then after that, it says here, if the TACACS Plus server becomes unreachable, the switch can use its local database for authentication. Well, first, let's define the group that we're going to, define the server that we're going to get the username and password, authenticate the password to, username and password to, which was, we got to type in group. This don't make sense, right? So let's question mark real quick. Are we going to use enable password for authentication? No. Are we going to use a server group? That sounds like it. Are we going to use local? Yes, we are, but we said we're going to use that if it fails. So, and then it says local case authentication. No, we ain't worried about that. No authentication? No, we definitely want some authentication. So we're going to go with group because we're going to use a server group. Now, why wouldn't they just put server as the keyword here? Well, because you could have more than one server. So we're creating a group of servers. So let's say this one fails. We can have a second server or a third or fourth TACACS server that we can fall back and check the usernames and passwords for. That's why they say server group. Now that kind of makes sense, right? So group, and then we can put the TACACS Plus, question mark. We can put radius or TACACS Plus. Obviously it's TACACS Plus, so we put TACACS Plus. And then the fallback, which is just local. So in case we can't reach the server, the TACACS Plus server, go ahead and fall back to the local username and password. And that's what the local keyword right here comes in. Local. Press enter. Now, let's take a look at this. This is the command we had to do for task 4. Until you get used to AAA commands, they really don't make sense when you just kind of like look at it. So AAA authentication, that is going to create the TACACS Plus group. If the TACACS Plus server becomes unreachable, the switch can use its local database for authentication. That's what that does. Don't make sense, but until you get used to working with AAA, you're just going to have to work with it that way. So, PS in the building, appreciate you for tuning in. He said, are AAA servers always physical devices, or can they be virtual? Good question. That's a good question. I believe in these days, I would think you can use a virtual server. I haven't used it. I haven't seen one. I think the organization that we use, I'm trying to think. It's an IP address. Like, I know there is an IP address. So we have to do TACACS server host. I would think you could use a virtual one as well. At my job, I'm not even sure if it's physical or virtual, but I know I definitely have to set up some switches to point to a TACACS server that has an IP address and things like that. I don't even know if it's physical or virtual, right? I know it's somewhere in our data center, but I would think you could use virtual or physical. Professor Black Ops said, STIG info. Is the local password encrypted? No big deal if it's not. You talking about in this? Let's see. Well, we're going to be using Telnet. So, y'all know Professor Black Ops is really into cybersecurity and stuff like that. So he wants to make sure that our topologies are encrypted. And that's a good question. I would say yes, because TACACS Plus, which is what I just mentioned earlier, TACACS Plus encrypts the entire packet, whereas Radius does not. So the local username and password will be encrypted when we're going between the server and the switch, I believe, right? Actually, yeah. When we get to the actual PC, when we're communicating and stuff like that, it should be encrypted. However, we set up Telnet to get onto the switch, so I think we're gonna fail your compliance there, Professor Black Ops. I'm sorry, but this lab called for Telnet, so I don't think so. But that is a very good question. If anybody want to correct me on that. Task 5: create a key string. Y'all run me with that like button if y'all like what y'all see so far. And if you're just tuning in, this is the lab guide we use. And if you want to follow along, you can follow along while I'm, teaching on stuff like that. But this is the lab guide we use. It has the answers and stuff like that too. So if you need a solution, every lab has a solution and stuff like that. 101 Labs Cisco CCNA version 4. You can get a copy of this from 101labs.net, or there's a link in the description box below. It is authored by this guy named Paul Browning and co-authored by Farai Tafah, who is a double CCIE, and really smart guys, right? So that link will take you to Amazon. You can get the book on Amazon Prime. But we're almost wrapping this book up. It's on lab number 107. And we're going to start doing some CCNP Encore studies. So if you want to watch the rest of these streams that we did, like we're on episode number 72. I pretty much ran through this book. You could go on my channel. You can see the live streams on that. So continue on. Task 5. Create a key string called myKey. That's another thing I hate too. They call key strings. They call passwords key strings. So they basically saying create a password and name it myKey. So let's go on to the switch and create a key string called myKey, which will only be known by the switch and server and will be used to encrypt the session. So I guess that probably answers your question, Professor Black Ops. It will be used to encrypt the session. So there you go. Really good question there. So we are going to define the name of the TACACS service, right? So when the PC is going to log on to switch with the username and password Cisco and Cisco respectively, because he couldn't think of a better username and password, the switch needs to know who is the TACACS server to authenticate from, right? And we're going to define that on there with this command here. So we go to the switch and do that, right? So we say TACACS server. We say TACACS server. Then we put host and then the IP address of the TACACS server, which is what? It's right here. 10. Well, y'all can't see it because I put it underneath the damn server. 10.1.1 is 10, right? So 10.1.1.10. Which, by the way, this, I believe, is a deprecated command by Cisco because they came out with new versions of iOS, and I remember having to do this at work, and that command don't work, and I won't authenticate to the switches and stuff like that. They actually had to change this, the way this command works, on some versions of iOS, so be on the lookout for that. That's a little fun fact for y'all. So now they said the key, after you put the name of the server, right, or not the name of the server, but you're defining the server with the IP address, you got to put the key in, right? So in this case, key, right there, per server encryption key, overrides default. So yes, this is going to encrypt the session, Professor Black Ops. We say key, and then myKey, because we couldn't think of a better password, and that's the key, right? We press enter, and then task 6, add an IP address to the server of the Ethernet port of the server. So now we actually have to go to the server and give him that IP address, right? Shout out to you. Appreciate you for tuning in. He said, I don't know how you became great at teaching. Can you please share some tips? Man, practice. In the words of Allen Iverson, man, I don't know. I wouldn't. If you go on my channel and you look at a video from me 3 years ago, I was like this, man. So you gotta go to the switch. Hold on for a second. Okay, so it just practice, man. I've been streaming for about, I don't know, I guess 2-3 years. Well, not really streaming. I've been streaming for about a half a year now, but I've been doing this channel since, for a couple years. So it's just practice, man. Just doing it a lot. Professor Black Ops said, my 2 cents, just do it. Exactly. The more you present, the more you teach, get feedback from your students. Exactly. You've inspired me to study CCNA. Man, appreciate that, Jason. Keep tuning in. Like I said, we wrapping up this book, so we're going to be moving on from the CCNA studies. If you want to look at the older streams, I've covered pretty much this whole book, but we're going to be doing CCNA stuff. So, man, appreciate you for tuning in, and make sure you study, lab every day. So we got to give this server the actual IP address, which is 10.1.1.10, right? Tab over, and it should automatically give us a subnet mask. What else we need to do? That was task 6. We're almost done. We need to go to task 10, right? Task 7, on the server, enable AAA. That's easy. We go to services, and then notice all these services we can do. If you don't know anything about servers, I have a tutorial on servers. Go on my channel, you'll see. We came to do what? AAA, which is what TACACS is. It's a type of AAA service. So we go to AAA, and then we say on. Notice how easy it is to turn on. A real server ain't gonna be this easy. Remember, this is just packet tracer. It's just a simulator. It's just to show you how it works, right? And then he says, add the client name of switch Oh, see, I need to change that then because I changed it to switch 1, right? So the client, the TACACS server, the TACACS client is going to be the switch. I named them switch 1. We need to actually change it to switch. So we need to make the client, right? So client name in this case, I named it actually SW1. Remember? We'll show you. Shout out to SW1. Remember Sean Wayans? That was his DJ name. But I named him switch 1. This switch right here, right? I'll go ahead and do that for y'all. So just in case somebody tuned in late, right? He is actually switch 1. So he is the TACACS Plus client. He is the client of this server. We need to make this the server, let him know that I have a client by the name of switch 1 who is going to authenticate users to me, right? And that's what we're doing here. What's the IP of it? IP address of him? 10.1.1.20, right? So we need to do that right there. 10.1.1.20, right? What's the secret? They said it was my key. Remember? We did that over here. That was the secret or password, right? So that is the password of the TACACS Plus client. My key. All lowercase though. My key. Right? The server type. What type of server is this going to be? This is going to be a TACACS Plus server, right? Y'all remember the difference, right? Radius is going by the wayside. It's not as secure as TACACS Plus. So we're doing a TACACS Plus server, right? And then we have to say add to add this as a client, but we didn't do the correct IP address because Fat Finger Squad in the building. An IP address has 4 octets, not 3. Y'all see that little typo I created there? And why I got this error? Boop! Says IP address is invalid, right? So we need to put an extra period there or dot because this is dotted decimal, right? That is the correct IP address, right? Y'all see that? 10.1.1.20, and I had actually 10. I was missing that right there, right? That's why I got that error. So put that period there. Now we try to add it. Now we have the client by the name of switch 1 with the IP address of 10.1.1.20, right? Right there, 10.1.1.20, and then the password of my key, right? So he is a TACACS Plus client. You would think it's him. No. You would think it's the actual PC. No, it is not. He is the client that is going to be checking in for users on the server. He is just pretty much a client of that client, if that makes any sense, right? I think he would be considered a supplicant, is what they would. No, this would be the supplicant, right? Let me check it. Let me double check that. Let me check that. Hold on, y'all. Supplicant. TACACS. All right. One of them is the supplicant. The other one is the something else. I can't remember. That's y'all pop quiz for today. One is the supplicant. The other one is the authenticator. I can't remember. Y'all correct me on that. One is the supplicant. The other one I believe is the authenticator. I can't even remember. I'm just trying to remember definitions. But Professor Backup says he teaches at a local college. That's what's up, man. Bro, when you going for the CCIE? Man, that's a good question. I would love to. Like I said, I was actually, when I started this channel, I was actually studying for the CCNP certification. And I took the route exam, took the switch exam, passed those, but then I didn't have enough time to take T-Shoot. So I'm kind of going back and going over the CCNA topic and teaching everybody, and then going back to study for the CCNP exam again. And I'm going to be going over the Encore exam, which I really don't have to take, but I'm going to go over those fundamentals also, and then take the NRC exam. And then maybe, hopefully in the future, I will take the CCIE, but I think I want to go over cloud stuff before going for the CCIE. But that's a good question, man. So let's actually move on. Actually, I was doing all of this on the TACACS Plus server. We made the switch a client. Task 8 was to configure what can be done on the switch once authorized. And that's what the authorization in the AAA stands for, right? AAA stands for authentication, which is what your username and password is, or what you use to authenticate with. Accounting, which is basically a list of the things that you've done so far, like you logged onto the switch, you made a change to the switch, you you took down an interface, so we create a log of all the stuff you've done on this device. That is called accounting. That is the A in accounting, right? And then finally, authorization, what you're allowed to do on here. You are allowed to do this. You can run this command. You can't do this. You can do that. You can do this. That is what the authorization is, and that's what they want us to do. Set what can be done what can be done on the switch once authorized. Jeez, I'm getting tongue twisted here. So remember, AAA stands for Authorization, Accounting, and Authorization, Accounting. Shit, I just said it. Authorization, Accounting, and somebody said, they said, I like your video. Appreciate the good work. Man, appreciate you for tuning in, Splash. Jesus. Authorization, Accounting. That's y'all pop quiz. What's the third A? Before y'all had a brain fart over here. So, geez. And authentication, right? That's what I just said, didn't I? Anyway, so the user should be allowed to go into exec mode, which is the switch plus prompt, or switch pound prompt, right? So he should be allowed to go into exec mode, which is the switch prompt, which is the switch with the hashtag prompt. So let's go in here and do all of that, right? So we got to do AAA, right? Anybody figure out what that third A stood for? Authorization, Accounting, and authorization. The S-Move said it. Authentication. Jeez, I had a brain fart, and I just said it, right? Authentication, which is what you're used to get onto the device. And Lawrence Little, shout out to Lawrence, he said it correctly too. Authentication. Why couldn't I think of it? So we said AAA, right? Then authorization, what you are allowed to do on here. What are you allowed to do on here? Get into exec mode, right? Or what's that called? Privileged exec mode. That's the official term for it. When you see that little hashtag, when you see this right here, this lets you know that lets you know you're in privileged exec mode, right? And then off exec mode, what are you allowed to do, or what are we going to use to authenticate that, or to like allow you to do this? You say default group, and this, remember, these AAA commands don't make sense to me, but this is why we practice, and this is why we're doing this, right? TACACS plus. So let's look at it all over, right? We said exec. We said in exec mode. What is the list? Well, by default, you have to check for a server. We didn't create a name just yet. We say default, right? And then what? Question mark group. We do have a server group, right? So we say group, and then what's the server? It is a TACACS plus server. Question mark. And remember, you can question mark through this. We already defined a group. Local database? Nah, not really. Yes, really. Because remember we said, I forgot that rule. If it fails, if the TACACS server fails, we want to fall back to this device to check for usernames and passwords. So we put that in, but we're also going to put in local. So, and that's what he did. This is for all sessions. So let's look at that again, right? He said, configure what can be done with this on the switch once authorized. The user should be allowed to go into exec mode, which is the switch plus prompt. So this right here, that's going to allow us to get in exec mode, right? And then use the local command to authorize the user for all sessions, right there, right? Now, does that make sense when you're looking at it, when you're reading it? To me, it don't. To me, it don't. But this is why we're practicing. So all I know is that they all start with AAA. All those AAA commands. So task 9, we're almost done here. There's 10 tasks, right? We're almost done here. Enable debugging for AAA sessions on the switch. And then Telnet from the PC. Sorry, Professor Black Ops. We're going to use Telnet, not SSH. So this is not secure. Remember, Telnet is not as secure as SSH, right? Telnet it's clear text, and they can see our passwords and usernames and stuff, right? But they want us to do that for simplicity's sake, right? And then Telnet from the PC to the switch. The PC should be authorized by the server and then permitted access. So turn on debugging, right? Y'all know what debugging is, right? Basically, it lets you see everything that's going on at the same time as you're logged onto it. So it's going to give you an alert when a packet comes in, or if something pinged this device, something, right? But we're going to say what specifically we want to debug. So in this case, debug. What are we going to debug? We can do debug in crypto. We can debug EIGRP packets. We can debug IPv6 packets, NTP. We're going to do AAA, obviously. So AAA, What do we want to specifically? Well, Packet Tracer only gives us one option because Packet Tracer is a simulator, right? So not all the options are available here. So we just say authentication, right? We got a CR for carriage return that says that's all we can do here. So debug AAA authentication packets. So any kind of authentication that goes on this switch, show me a message. That's what this is doing, right? So we press enter here. That lets us know AAA authentication for debugging is on. So now when we do what we came to do, right? So when we log on to this switch right here, we say, hey, my username and password is Cisco and Cisco respectively. Can I log on to this? The switch is gonna be like, let me see. I'm gonna check in with the server. And while all of this is going on, we got debugging going on this switch, right? So it's gonna read all the stuff that's going on, right? And that's what the debugging does, right? So let's go and do that, right? Task 10 was to check the debug output on the switch. Well, let's go ahead and telnet into the switch and try that, right? So command prompt. Professor Blackoff said, I'm going to write the author about telnet. We need mama's cooking on security. Man, listen, I don't know. I guess he did it for simplicity reasons, but you know, I think it's because I'm pretty sure this is the reason why he had us set up telnet. And notice this lab has 10 tasks. If we would have had to set up SSH, that would have been about 5 or 7 more tasks, which makes this lab a little bit longer. And y'all know I like to try to keep my streams into like little nuggets, like CBT nuggets. But it will just kind of lengthen the lab. There's a lot more steps you got to do to create or to set up SSH on a device. So they just had to set up telnet. But yes, we do need something a little bit more secure. We want to stay away from SSH or from telnet, right? So we say telnet. We're gonna go from this device and telnet into that guy, right? Did I set it up yet? I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, we did. We did the VTY line. So 10.1.1.20. Forgot the period there. Pray to the network guys. Press enter. We got the username. What was the username? It was Cisco, because we couldn't think of a better username. And what was the password? It was Cisco, because we couldn't think of a better password. And we press enter, right? And while all this is going on, I fat fingered it right there. It's login invalid. So let's do that again, right? It was Cisco, enter, Cisco, enter, login invalid. Something's wrong here. Let's see. And while all this was going on, right? So let's see. I did put in. I remember putting in that username and password, but let's do this. We got some troubleshooting to do here, right? Log on to the switch, and notice while all this was going on, we got some debugging messages here, right? So we got bind if, not sure what the hell that means. We got this right here, pick method list my auth, which is what we created there, and that's all we got. And I believe that's in there twice because we put the wrong password in, right? So we have something to fix here. Let's do some troubleshooting here. We're gonna do a show run. I know I told y'all to stay away from that, but in this case we need to, because we need to see what we did wrong here. The username and password is definitely Cisco, so that is correct. But what do we have that's wrong? 10.1.1.10 is the host. That is the server, right? Let's see here. Local login authentication my auth. So that is correct. The switch is 10.1.1.20. Let's see if we can ping the TACACS server. Ping 10.1.1.10. We got a reply. We definitely got a reply. So we're good there. He said, you're right, Black Ops. The only thing about Telnet we need to know is how to disable it. Facts. Shout out to Kobe for that one. That's true. We don't want to use Telnet. We definitely don't want to use Telnet in a production environment. But we got some troubleshooting here, dude. What are we missing, y'all? Let's see. Let's go on the server and see what we got. We have, that should be correct, 10.1.1.20. TACACS. My key. The client name was switch 1. It was all caps, right? 10.1.1.20. Think so. AAA is turned on. He said radius port 1645. That's not right, but it is what it is, because we're not using radius. We're using TACACS, so that was correct, right? That is probably what we're missing. The username and password. Y'all see that? We have to also put it on the actual server. So that was what I'm missing. So we created the username and password locally on the switch, right? We also got to put it on the server. Remember I said we're checking in with this. We're checking in with the switch, like, hey, I got a username and password Cisco and Cisco, am I good to be logged on? Well, the switch, I'm gonna have to check in with the TACACS Plus server and be like, hey, I have this switch, this PC that's trying to log on with the username and password, Cisco and Cisco. Can he log in? I know that's a dumbass username and password, but can he log in? Well, guess what? The switch checked. I didn't even put in the username and password, so that is the step I'm missing. Come on, network, bro. You should have done better than that, right? So let's go ahead and create the username and password, Cisco and Cisco, right? And again, this is just a simulator. This is just kind of show you guys how it works. It's going to be more complex than this in a real TACACS Plus server or Radius Plus server. This is just for simplicity reasons why they made it this simple, right? So again, we needed to create the username and password also on the server. So let's press enter. That added the username and password. Did we save it? Now we saved it. I believe we saved it that time, right? We can remove it if we want to. So now let's go back on the PC, sprinkle some of mama's cooking, and try to log on to the server this time. Onto the switch this time, right? So let's go ahead and let me see if y'all can see this. I just need to look over to my live stream over here on this side. I just want to make sure that you guys are able to see the topology and the command prompt at the same time. Y'all know I'm trying to work on my display here. Scoot that bad boy over. Okay, I guess I've been doing that correctly. All right, good. So let's go ahead and sprinkle some of mama's cooking. We pinged it. Obviously, we know that the TACACS Plus server is actually working. So now let's go ahead and telnet into that switch, which is 10.1.1.20. Created the network gods. Press enter. We're getting prompted for the username Cisco and our password Cisco. Press enter. And now we're onto the switch. Beautiful. What was the enable password? I believe it was Cisco too, right? I don't remember. Tab over. But notice we have a carriage there. So that means we're in user exec mode. We want to try to get into privileged exec mode, right? So we're on the switch, but we just want to try to get up one level. Press enter. What was the password? I believe it was Cisco. I don't remember. CISCO. Enter. Nope, it wasn't. I don't remember. They put so many damn passwords. The enabled password was my Cisco. See? So MYCISCO. Press enter. And we're on privileged exec mode. That's what the hashtag is, right? So good to go. Next time y'all want to follow on, get y'all a copy of this book, man. 101 Labs Cisco CCNA version 4. You can get a copy of this from 101labs.net. There's a link in the description box below. It's authored by this guy named Paul Browning, co-authored by Farai Tafa. Experts agree that we retain only 10% of what we read. We read and we retain only 10% of it, which means what? In one ear and out the other. But we retain 90% of what we do. This is why I'm always preaching you guys to try to learn this stuff. Yes, read it from the book, but also practice the stuff hands-on, and then you'll be able to kind of you'll know it more fully and more thoroughly, right? So we pretty much wrapped up that lab. What else they wanted us to do? Let's look at the debug commands real quick to see what happened when we have a successful authentication. We did that. Pretty much the same thing. Bind IF. We could probably look that up and see what those debugs messages are. But basically, use the my auth list to authenticate that user there. But that was pretty much it, man. Next lab on the next stream, unless y'all want to do it for this too, we can stay on this. This is pretty much the last. Let me see. Yeah, before we wrap this up, we're on lab. Next lab is going to be configuring Radius, which is the same thing as this one, but instead of TACACS Plus, we're using Radius. Lab number 108, page 462. Y'all want to do it for this stream, or y'all want to save it for next stream? Save it for tomorrow. Let me see. Let's see. It's 8 tasks, so it's pretty similar to the last lab. And in case nobody was pretty much, if y'all was just sitting around and watching, we could do this over again. Or if anybody missed half of the other stream, we can do it over again. But it's just going to be done with Radius. Y'all let me know. Lawrence Little got it correct. That was the password. I was using the wrong enable password. Jay said looks good. Appreciate that, man. But yeah, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Do y'all want to do the Radius lab? After that is just challenge labs. And then how many challenge labs he got for this book? He got, let me see. He got 15 challenge labs. And then he got labs, bonus labs, A through, let's see, A through F, A through G, which the last two I don't think I'm going to do because they're like frame relay and shit. And that's not even on the exam anymore. My bad. A through, let's see. A through, yeah, he got 2 appendixes. So yeah, pretty much A through G. And then we'll be done with this book, man. We did. Can't y'all believe this shit, man? We are 72 episodes deep. Y'all let me know if y'all want to do the radius lab, or y'all want to save it for tomorrow. Because if anybody wasn't following along, then we could just do this over again, but just gonna be doing it with radius. So we was able to log on and stuff like that. Set up the switch. When is the next stream? We typically stream. Good question, Lawrence. And in case you guys don't know, I also have a Discord server. So in case I get like some new ideas, or if I'm gonna cancel a stream, because y'all know life happens and stuff like that. But I typically stream Monday through Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If there's any kind of cancellation, or if I have like, if I'm gonna like, sometimes I'll do some bonus streams. Like if I don't have my daughter, like this weekend actually, I'm not gonna have my daughter, so I should be able to do some more streams. Saturday, Sunday, we'll stream all week if y'all want to. But typically Monday through Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Lawrence Stidle said, let's get it. I mean, if nobody objects, then let's just go ahead and do it, man. That way we can wrap up. We're done. We'll be done with this book, man. We'll be done a little quicker. So in case there was somebody in here that was just like, damn, I know this dude. He teaching it. And I sat there and watched it. I didn't do it. Now's my chance. Now's your chance. Go ahead and fire up Packet Tracer, man. I'll wait for you, man. Go to page. If you don't have the book, even if you don't have the book, I'll read out the stuff to you. But make sure in the next stream you get the book. Not necessarily this book. Get the CCNP book, because we're almost wrapping this book up. Page number 462. Lab number 108. Configuring radius. We're going to learn how to use radius. So it's going to be similar to the last lab, except we're going to be using radius as the protocol. The only difference is they use a different port number. Radius is not as secure as TACACS Plus. What else? Because it only encrypts some of the packet. I'll even bring up a comparison between Radius and TACACS, because y'all know I don't know that shit by heart. Radius versus TACACS Plus. Let's see. But anyways, for that lab, we're gonna need pretty much the same thing. We're gonna use a PC. Go ahead and drag and drop a PC. Bloop. A router. Go ahead and drag and drop a router. I'm gonna do the 4321. Bloop. That guy right there. And a server, which we're gonna set up Radius for. So it's the same thing, except when they talking to the device and stuff like that, they're gonna use Radius instead of TACACS Plus. Remember, Radius these are protocols, so it's kind of like a language, not like a computer language like Java or C+ or anything like that, or Python or whatever. This is a protocol that we use to authenticate our devices with, right? So we put the server there. Go ahead and connect them bad boys up. So it's real similar to the last lab. Connect that bad boy up, and if there's anybody in here, right, we're gonna connect to that guy. There's somebody in here that was like, damn, I should have just, let me go ahead and fire it. Let me go ahead and learn with this guy, man. Go ahead and do it, man. Now's your chance. So let me move these bad boys over. Bloop. Bloop, so y'all can see. Right. He said, as I'm sure as you read in your study guide, or if you're watching NetworkBruh, you'll know that AAA can use, he didn't really say that, that's just me. AAA can use TACACS Plus or Radius to control user access to the network equipment. So same thing. This PC gonna try to get onto this router, and the router gonna check in with the server using Radius instead of TACACS and be like, hey, can this guy get on? TACACS server is gonna, Radius server is gonna be like, oh yes, he can get on with that username and password. Hopefully he uses a different one, and the router's gonna be like, okay, you can go ahead and get on. It looks like you can get on because you put the correct username and password. So Radius was designed to authenticate and log remote network users, while TACACS Plus is most commonly used for administrative access. Before we get started, I'll show y'all the difference between the two. Bloop. Shout out to what we got here. We got a lot of user created ones, but fuck it. Let's go with this one. This is a comparison chart between the two, right? Radius and TACACS Plus. Close that bad boy. Bloop. Bloop. Can we get a full screen here? I'm waiting for somebody to get caught up too. So comparison sheet, different port numbers, like I said. They use that for authentication, that for accounting. TACACS Plus uses TCP 49. And notice, this is created by AT. This was the standard. I mean, yeah, this was the standard. It is open standard, Radius. TACACS Plus was created by Cisco, but then it became open standard, meaning you can use it on every other vendor as well. So it became open standard. I don't remember what year, probably 2013. That's another pop quiz for y'all. When did TACACS Plus become open standard? If I'm going to guess, I'm going to say 2013. I can't remember. But full packet encryption. This is what I said. So TACACS Plus is basically, remember, TACACS Plus is better than Radius because full packet encryption. Whereas they only encrypt the password. So Professor Black Ops is probably going to be frowning upon us right now because we use Radius to set up this topology right here. Bidirectional chat. This is unidirectional. Let's see here. Requires more resources, full logging of commands, etc., etc., etc. If y'all want this for the comparison sheet, that's basically it right there. I'll go ahead and put it in the chat just in case y'all wanted a comparison. But remember, it's just two different protocols that we use to compare to authenticate our devices. So let's go and get started. Task 1. There's only 8 tasks here. Connect the PC to the router. We did that already, right? This guy to that guy. You may have different interfaces, which they were. Configure the IP addresses and default gateway on the host. So let's go to PC, right? Go ahead and if anybody's new here, we're going to create the IP address and the default gateway on the computer, right? I'm not making for y'all. It's just like I said, I know there's going to be some new people in here, and I'm just kind of keep it simple for some people that might not know. So we go to desktop, right? Somebody following along here. Somebody in here. TACACS Plus or Radius was open standard in 1990. Damn, I was way the hell off, Lawrence Little. What the hell's I thinking there? Appreciate that though, man. Shout out to Lawrence for that answer there. We go to the PC, IP configuration, and we're going to give him an IP address. This guy right here, we're going to give him an IP address. It is 192.168.2.2. We tab over and the subnet mask will all automatically put in there. You see that? Then we're going to give him a default gateway. This is basically the host or the device that's going to let us onto the internet. There's no internet here, but this is because it's a simple topology. But we're using that to get out of our local area network. That's what the default gateway is, right? 192.168.2.1, right? Tab over. We don't got to worry about DNS. Just don't worry about that. Y'all know what DNS is, right? Domain name services. Just in case somebody's new in here, basically translate the IP address to the host name, right? So, like if you have an IP address of, I don't know, 78.44.64.28, right? You're not going to remember that, right? You're going to remember BurgerKing.com or host, GoDaddy.com or Google.com. You remember those names, right? We use DNS to map our IP addresses to host names. That's what DNS is used for. I'm going off topic here, but that was task 2. Task 3, configure the IP address on the router interfaces. So we need to go on the router. Boop. Boop. Is he turned on? I think he is. Yes, he is. We press enter. Click no, right? Because we are network engineers, or at least aspiring to be network engineers. And press enter. Because we're going to configure our devices manually. We type in enable to go to privileged exec mode, configure terminal to actually be able to configure the device. We go to the interface, which in this case, he said FA00. Let me do some labeling here. So I don't get lost. Let me do some labeling here. And in case there's somebody new in here too. So let's go to label, put a note. He is going to be 192.168.2.2, right? And that interface right there, right, is going to be 192.168.2.1, right? He is going to be the default gateway for that guy, right? And that interface is going to be 192.168.1.1, and the server is going to be 192.168.1.2. Notice these are 2 separate networks here, right? Because we use routers to separate our broadcast domains. Y'all with me so far? Right? This is the 1.2 network, or 1.0 network, right? 192.168.1.0. And this is the 192.168.2.0 network. Y'all with me so far? Anybody any questions? Any questions? Remember, there's no such thing as a dumb question. I am more, I am more inclined to answer a question. If not, there's some smart people in the chat room over there that will get to it before I do. Let's go to the actual router. hold on, let me move this bad boy over, right? We're going to put that interface on that IP address, that interface with that IP address, right? So we're going to give these two to match and them two to match, right? So we go on the router. We're going to say FA, or interface, in my case, GI001. Give him the IP address of 192. Remember, your interfaces might be different. If you pick the router, a different router, 168.2.1, right? We're going to, you got to put the subname mask, which in this case is 255.255.0. We no shut that bad boy, right? Because the interfaces are down by default on the router. Do the same thing on the other interface, right? Which is this one right here. So we did this one. Notice it's turning green. We got to do that side, right? So interface, interface GI000. In this case, IP address 192.168.1.1, 255.255.255.0. Anybody got any questions so far? No shut. Press enter. I think y'all with me so far. I believe y'all paying attention. I'm glad y'all paying attention, man. Appreciate y'all for tuning in too. So notice both sides are red, right? Because we turned up both those interfaces, right? We gave them IP addresses. That was task number 3. They want us to change the host name to router 1. So I know by default it says router 0. They want us to change that to R1, right? That's just a label. We actually have to do it on the switch, right? So get out of that and change him to hostname R1, all caps, right? Press enter. I know this is easy for some of y'all, but I know there's somebody in here that's new. I know there's somebody that's in here that's new. That's like, I want to learn this stuff, man. Go ahead and learn it with me, man. We go to, they want us to set an enable password. Remember, enable is the privileged exec password. So remember, the caret sign, I'll show y'all, and in case there's somebody that's new here, when we are in this mode right here, with the caret sign, right? This sign right here, that lets us know we're in user exec mode. U, right? We want to go up one level. P, we go to privileged exec mode. How do we do that? We press enable. That puts us in privileged exec mode. You know you're in privileged exec mode when you see a hashtag, just like this right here, right? But we want to set a password to get into privileged exec mode or enable mode. Some people will call it. It's colloquially somebody now pronounce that word for me. Colloquially known as enable mode, but it's really known as privileged exec mode. We got to set that by going to global config mode first, and we say enable. The enable password is, they said, is going to be hello lowercase, right? So now we get out of this, right? We get out of this. We're in privileged user exec mode. We type in enable to get into privileged exec mode, and now it's asking us for a password. You see that? You type in hello. Oops. Make sure, backspace, 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 backspace. Hello, enter. I typed it in wrong. So HELLO, enter. And now we're in privileged exec mode. Now, how I remember user exec mode and privileged exec mode is going up, U, P. And then you go up one level. And then you want to go into global config mode with configure terminal. And you press enter. Now we're in global config mode to do what else we needed to do. That was task 3. We only got 8 tasks in here. Task 4, configure AAA on the server. So we got to go to the server this time, right? So go ahead and close this. Go to the server. I'm gonna give some people to get caught up, or if there's any questions to be asked. Lawrence Little, 1990. That's interesting. I didn't know that, man. That's a real good fun fact there. TACACS Plus. Let's look up some more. My bad. Yeah. That's what I wanted to see. And Radius. I mean, the Wikipedia page for it. 1990 without backwards compatibility. That's interesting. Proprietary extension. Well, that's when it was introduced. But when was it open standard? That's my question. Let's see. It was 1990? Yes. It was released as 1993. Yes. See? So that's TACACS Plus. So it was actually 1993. And Cisco don't really be asking you those questions anymore on the CCNA exams and stuff like that. Like, what year was they don't, that's too easy. So, but I just like little fun facts like that. But no, I'm kind of the stream looked like it's messing up there. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on. That was task 3. Task 4 was to configure AAA on the server. So we go to server. We go to services, right? We go to AAA, right? Because Radius is a type of AAA service. And then we say turn it on, right? Boom. That was easy enough, right? That turns on AAA Radius. The client name is router 1 in this case, right? So remember, he is the client. And I believe he is the supplicant, right? Because he's going to be supplying a username and password. I think that's what that's what it is, if I remember correctly. But anyways, he is the client of the radius server. So the client was what, R1. His IP is 192.168.1.1, I believe, in this case, right? No, it's actually 1. Yes. So here's a tricky one. It's 1.1. Yes, it is 1.1. Because we're going to be using this IP address, not that one, to authenticate to the server. This guy is going to be authenticating with that. So he is actually, yes, 192.168.1.1. And then the secret, I don't think we created one just yet, did we? We have an enabled password, but I don't think we created a Tacx host. Let's see what he said. They didn't do any of that yet. Oh, they put it in first. So this is what they wanted. Oh, I didn't even read it out loud yet, right there. So client name is router 1. IP is 192.168.1.1. Guess it helps if I read. Password is P ampersand SSW word. So password, but with a capital P, so like this. Password is actually P, which is a better password than Cisco. P lowercase, and then at or ampersand SSWORD. This is what they wanted, right? We know it's a radius, so we leave that by default. Now we do add, and that puts in, that makes this guy a client of the radius server, right? Not him. He is going to be checking in with him, and then he's going to be checking in with him to see if that's good. Y'all with me so far? And that is the basic concept of it. After you click add, create a username of 101 Labs and password of Cisco. So we're going to be using a different username and password. This is what I forgot in the last lab, right? So we need to make sure we do that. Probably because I wasn't reading, right? So 101 Labs. And the password is, he said, Cisco. I guess that's a better one, but whatever. We add that, right? We go ahead and save it. Then he said, make sure you also add an IP address of 1.2 for the server and default gateway. So we need to actually give this guy that IP address right there. That's something else we need to remember. So go to config, the interface, not there. I don't like to do it there. Let's go to the desktop and then configure it here. Because now we can do the IP, the subnet, and the default gateway. His IP address is what? 192.168.1.2, right? 192.168.1.2. Oops, 2. Tab over. Subnet mask should be entered automatically. Default gateway is 192.168.1.1, right? Yes, he basically makes the router the default gateway. So yes, that's correct. We're not worried about DNS for now. Go ahead and close that bad boy. Y'all with me so far? Anybody any questions? 93. Yes, Lawrence Little. You were close though. I think you saw the first date on that Wikipedia page and said 1990. But I believe 1990. Let's see. Let's correct ourselves here though. They had extended TACACS, which is the proprietary extension to TACACS introduced by Cisco in 1990, without backwards compatibility to the original protocol, which was TACACS. Then they came out with TACACS Plus. Don't forget that plus at the end. It's a protocol developed by Cisco and released as an open standard beginning in 1993. So that is when. So they came out with TACACS in 1990, and then they had a TACACS Plus in 1993, and then it made it open standard, meaning even though Cisco came out with it, they say you could use it on these other little devices, Juniper and Aruba and all that other shit. You can use TACACS Plus if y'all want to, but just remember, we created this shit. We started it. Task 5. Add the radius server, radius configuration to the router. So we did all of that stuff on the server. Now we're going to go on the router and do the configurations for it, right? So let's go ahead and bring up the router. I'm going to scoot that bad boy over here at the bottom. We got Big L in the building and in the chat over there. And make sure y'all join the Discord server too, man. Let me go ahead and put that in the chat room there. Reading is fundamental, right? Exactly. When all else, I've been telling my daughter that. When all else fails, read. That's one of my favorite quotes. I think I made that up. I've never heard anybody say about it. It's when all else fails, read. When things are not going your way, or things are not like instruction manual, if you can't put the bookshelf together, read. Make sure you go back and read to see if you've missed something in here. Or if you get bored, read. When all else fails, read. So we got to enable AAA right, on the router, which is AAA new model, just like we did in the last lab, new model that enables AAA. And I don't like this command, right? You would think it would have been like enable AAA or enable AAA enable. No, they said AAA new model. Somebody explain that one to me. That turns on AAA. Whatever. Now we got to define the radius server and the password for it. So this guy needs to know who is the radius server. Yes, he's directly connected to it. He knows that, but we need to actually give him that IP address and say and the password that we're going to use to authenticate to it. So the way we do that is radius server, isn't it? No, AAA radius server, AAA radius shit. Radius server, just like that. Oh, that's why I got to type in the whole thing. Radius tab server, like that. Now we put in host, the IP address of it, which is what? This guy, 192.168.1.2, right? So 192.168. Y'all can see my screen? Is it too small? Or the font's too small? Let me make it bigger for y'all. If it is too small. It's at 12. I'll set it to 15. Apply. Close. Bring that bad boy up. Not that guy. This guy. And y'all let me know if that looks better for y'all. If that was too small. 192.168.1.2 is the server. What else we want to do? We want to put in the key. What was the key? It was, let me move this over so y'all can see better. Password with the ampersand, right? For the A. So P ampersand SSWORD. What else can we got? That's it. CR for carriage return. Press enter. What else? So now he know who to check in. This router know who to check into for usernames and passwords and stuff like that, right? Remember the third-party device that is going to be doing the authentication. Now they want us to. What else? This is the part that I really don't like. The AAA commands to set up the method list is what they call it, right? So AAA authentication. Yeah, actually type it out, right? And then let's question mark. You'll see enable list. No, we're not checking for enable passwords. Login, yes, a password for login. Don't worry about PPP, which is point-to-point protocol. We're not worried about that right now. Login, right? Question mark. What else? A named list. Did we name one? Not yet, but we're gonna do a default list. Sure. Default. Question mark. What else? Enable. No. Group. Yes. Right. You would think they would have made this server. No, it's a group because we could have a group of servers that we're authenticating to. So group, right? Is that what they have in the book? Yes. And then question mark, is it a radius or TACACS server? It is a radius server, so we'll pick that. Question mark. What are we gonna do here? Are we using an enable password for authentication? No. Group, we did that already. Local, yes, that sounds about right. No authentication, no. Local case, no, that's not it. So it's local, which is definitely what they have in the book. And remember, the local keyword is kind of like our fallback. So we're saying with this, and this is why I hate, we're saying with this, if you, okay, so it says AAA. If you want to authenticate your logins, by default, we need to check in with the radius server, which we've already defined up here. And if that fails, check in locally for the username and password. So check in locally for the username and password. So if this guy's out of the picture, we're going to see if the username and password is on here. That's what the local keyword is for, right? That makes sense? Same thing as last lab. It's just that it's radius instead of TACACS. So now we can press enter. Right? And like I said, it's kind of nonsensical, but this is just how they made iOS, right? And this is why I hate AAA commands and stuff. Now we got to go to VTY lines and say where we get do the authentication, right? So line VTY 0 to 15, and then login, right? That prompts for the username and password. That's what this is. We question mark. We'll see what do we want to do: local password checking or authentication using a AAA method list. So it's AAA method list that we needed to use or to check in with. So authentication, right? Which I hate method lists. And are we going to do this by default or a specific method list? I don't think we named the method list, so I believe it's default, right? Let's see what the book said. Yes, default, because we didn't name the list. Press enter. And then enable debugging is what he had us do. Right, so we say debug, AAA authentication. Now the authentication, AAA authentication is debugging is on. Task 7, which is the final task. We're going to telnet. Sorry, Professor Black Ops. We're going to telnet from the PC to the switch. The switch is going to be like, is he able to get in? The router is going to check in. I mean, we're going to telnet to the router. Router's going to check in with the Tacx, the RADIUS server, and be like, hey, I got this user by the name of blah, 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 blah. Can he come in? The server's going to be like, yes, he can come in. And then the router's going to actually grant access to this guy right here. So let's go ahead and go to the PC and do that. Sprinkle some of mama's cooking. And get in the command prompt. Type in telnet. What are we telnetting into? The router, which is, in this case, 192.168.2.1. Right? So we're going to telnet into that guy right there. 192.168.2.1. Anybody know why I'm not going to telnet into 192.168.1.1, even though that's an interface? Anybody know why? Before I move on? Oh, Flitter, you good. I appreciate that, man. Why am I not telnetting into that address instead of the 2.1? Somebody got an answer in that. I know that. That's an easy one. I'm hungry. That's why. We almost done here, y'all. Y'all know we typically get this done by within an hour. I guess I'm 15 minutes over. Anybody yet? Smell like tuna fish up here. Why am I not telnetting into 192.168.1.1? That's an interface on here, right? Oh, somebody cooking. Anyways, towards the end, he says, this was a simple AAA configuration. It can be far more complicated, of course. Psh, tell me about it, Paul Browning. All right, if nobody will answer, it's pretty much is because this is a different network, right? This is the 1.1 or 1.0 network, rather, right? Notice this is 192.168.1.1. He's 192.168.1.2, whereas this guy is 2.2, and he is 2.2. That's correct, Lawrence Little. Separate networks. And Huang also said it. Because your PC needs to telnet to the default gateway, I believe. Well, sort of. But Lawrence Little's answer is more accurate. It is two separate networks. This is the 2.0 network as opposed to the 1.0 network. This PC can't reach that. He can't reach that network. Unless we actually made like a router with with a routing table and things like that and be able to make that as the a reachable network, but that network is not reachable to the PC. So we're gonna make it 2.1. Let's go ahead and telnet into it finally. Press enter. Pray to the network gods, and the username I believe was 101 Labs, right? Remember this username and password we created on the server? This guy right here, services, AAA, that right there, 101 Labs, and it's Cisco. So that is the user, right? As opposed to the client, not Radius, password and all of that. So let's go ahead and put that in. 101 Labs. Press enter. Password was Cisco, lowercase, CISEO. Pray to the network gods. Sprinkle some of mama's cooking. Press enter. And can't get on. Is he crashing? What the hell is going on here? Packet tracer? Interesting. Oh, there it goes right there. He finally got on. And the enable password, was, I can't even remember what it was. What was it? My Cisco? MyCISCO? Enter? No. Was it Cisco? Enter? No. What was the enable password? Anybody remember? They just put so many goddamn passwords in. Excuse my language. It was hello. Hello was the enable password or the privileged exec password. HELLO. Enter. That was pretty much it. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. We pretty much wrapped it up. That was TACACS Plus and Radius. What have we learned so far? We learned that TACACS Plus became an open standard in 1993. but it was invented in 1990, right? Or at least released in 1990. Press that is the Discord server in case y'all want to ask me some questions or go over some other topics and stuff like that. Again, this is the lab guide we use, 101 Labs Cisco CCNA version 4. You can get a copy of this from 101labs.net, or there's a link in the description box below of this video. It'll take you to Amazon, and then you can get the book from there. What else did I want to say? Again, we stream Monday through Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Monday through Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But this week, I'm going to be streaming all week, baby. We're going to wrap this book up, and then we're going to go... I'm supposed to study for the NRC exam, but there's a lot of stuff that they came out with on the Encore exam that I need to know before I move on to the NRC exam. So this is going to be a bonus. I'm going to go over a lot of Encore exam topics. I'm working on a spreadsheet, and I'll show you guys how it looks so far on my attack plan for both of those exams, right? Where is he at? Where's he at? Where they at, though? How much proof do you need? Hold on. This is my attack plan so far. Let's show y'all real quick, right? So I got a little spreadsheet here. I'm putting, I put all the line items from the exam topics, what chapter the book is in, right? And then I got some YouTube videos, some of course from the NetworkBruh himself. You know, just like for example, this right here is a video on how to configure EIGRP, right? So a lot of resources that I'm collecting off of YouTube and stuff like that, putting them on there on where I can get these topics from. So like for example, MPLS, we got a video on that. Who is that? From the almighty, I believe Kevin, I believe I got that from, what's his name? That's an INE video? No, I believe that's like IP expert video. I can't remember. I think it's INE. Then we're going to do some labs from that book, from that, right? So in this case, there is a 101 lab. So just basically the CCNP version of this right here, right? Then I'm going to get some stuff from the Encore lab manual, the NRC lab manual. I'm going to try, I'm still working on getting a promotional copy from Boston NetSim. I sent them another email today. I'm going to do a giveaway once I get to about, I want to say 5,000 subscribers, give away a copy of Boston NetSim. Then we're going to go over through GNS3Vault.com. They have a couple labs that we can get from their site. And then some white papers from Cisco that we can go over some of these topics as well. I'm going to share this spreadsheet to you guys, man. So I'm collecting all this stuff and I'm sharing it with y'all. And we're going to go over it one by one, all of these line items. And then go over the NRC exam. I'm going to sign up for the exam probably towards the end of the year. Because remember, this is like, this right here is just like, how many line items? We got about 60 line items just for the NRC. But remember, the Encore exam comes before that. I also have one just like this for Encore. ENCOR. That is my study plan for that one. Right? I'm going to share this with you guys as well. Just make sure you join the Discord server. And when I'm done with that, I'll share it with you guys, man. Appreciate you too, Lawrence, man. I'm glad you learned a lot as well. That is the Discord server. Make sure y'all join if y'all want to get a copy of this as well, man. For now, comment, like, subscribe to the network.